Okay, after a slum contest, we go for the next test for determination of workability of a concrete. The test is known as the compaction factor test for determination of workability. Both tests are usually for workability determination. The slum contest is easy method and it is easy to perform on a site and also in a lab. But the compaction factor test is generally performed in a laboratory. The compaction factor test is the workability test for concrete conducted in a laboratory. The compaction factor is the ratio of the weight of the partially compacted to the fully compacted concrete. That is the main principle behind this test is to take the weight of the partially compacted concrete and divided by the fully compacted concrete. Then this ratio of weight of this two compacted concrete is known as the compaction factor. And depending upon this value, we can divide or we can confirm the workability of concrete, that is the lower workable, high workable, very low workable, and depending upon the workability we can say or we can determine the suitability or identify the suitability of concrete for different type of the work. The apparatus required, compaction factor apparatus, as we see in the image, the compaction factor apparatus is having the upper hopper, lower hopper and the cylinder at the base. The base is provided on which the cylinder is placed. Then upper hopper and lower hoppers. The vertical lines is common so that concrete will fall one by one from upper hopper to lower hopper, lower to the cylinder. So it is known as the compaction factor apparatus. We require also the trowel for placing the concrete into the hoppers and leveling the top surface of the cylinder. A steel rod or the suitable material is required for the compaction and a weighing balance for batching the ingredient of the concrete. It is one of the also image showing the compaction factor apparatus, top hopper, bottom hopper and cylinder. The top and bottom hopper is containing the trap door. The trap door is provided at the bottom of the both hoppers. When you remove this trap door, then the concrete will fall into the bottom hopper, and when remove the trap door of this bottom hopper, then it will fall down into the cylinder. We require tamping rod for 60 centimeter or 0.6 meter long for the compaction and trowel for placing and leveling the top surface of the cylinder. So it is about the compaction factor test apparatus. The trap door is containing the lock. While placing the concrete into the hopper, we have to maintain the trap door closer, and as we follow the step, then we have to open this such that the concrete will fall into the bottom hopper, and when we open the trap door of the bottom hopper, it fall into the cylinder. So it is all about the apparatus required for the compaction factor test. Next we go for the procedure for compaction factor test. First step is place the concrete sample in the upper hopper to its brim using the trowel and level it. So firstly we have to place the concrete into the upper hopper. First we have to place the concrete in a upper hopper. So this is the upper hopper or the top hopper, in which we have to place the concrete up to the this top surface or the beam level. So place the concrete up to the top level and level it. This is the first step. Second is open the trap door at the bottom of the upper hopper so that the concrete fall into the lower hopper, and push the concrete sticking on the sides of with the end of the rod. So when the concrete is placed into the top hopper or the upper hopper, then we have to remove this trap door or open this trap door. When we open this trap door of this upper hopper, then the concrete will fall down into this lower hopper or the bottom hopper. Remember, while concrete fall down into this hopper, that is up in the bottom hopper, then we have to remain or close this trap door. So first we have to place the concrete in a top hopper, and then we level it, then open the trap door so that concrete will fall into the bottom hopper. Next is third, open the trap door of the lower hopper and allow the concrete fall into the cylinder below. So when the concrete is fall into the lower hopper, then we also have to remove this trap door so that concrete fall into the cylinder. Like this, when you open this trap door, then concrete fall into the cylinder. So one by one, first we open the trap door of the upper hopper, it fall into the bottom hopper. Then after opening this trap door, it fall into the cylinder. Then 4 number step, cut the excess of concrete above the top level of the cylinder using the trowel and level it. So when the concrete fall into the cylinder, then it will having the hip shape or it come above the top surface of the cylinder. Then by use of the trowel, we have to cut the concrete above the top level of the cylinder and level it properly. Remove extra concrete along the surface of the cylinder. So we have to level the top surface and remove extra concrete along the outer side of the outer surface of the cylinder. Next, clean the outside of the cylinder, that is cleaning the cylinder with the outside. Weight the cylinder with the concrete to the nearest 10 gram. So we have to take the weight and determine the weight of the concrete only. This weight is known as the weight of the partially compacted concrete W1. So we have to first take the, or we have to take the empty weight of the cylinder. So first we know the empty weight of the cylinder. Then we have to take the weight of the cylinder and concrete. Then from this we determine the net weight of the compacted concrete, that is weight of cylinder plus concrete minus the weight of the cylinder or empty weight of the cylinder. So by this way we can calculate the weight of the concrete only, and this weight of the concrete is known as the weight of partially compacted concrete, that is W1. Next is empty the cylinder and then refill it with the same concrete in the 3 layers. For each layer, tamping is done by using the tamping rod. So after taking this weight of partially compacted concrete, we have to remove the concrete from the cylinder and refill the same cylinder with the same concrete, but in the 3 layers, tamping each layer by the tamping rod 25 times. So we have to fill the cylinder with the same concrete 1, 2 and 3 layers. tamping each layer by the tamping rod, compacting each layer by the tamping rod 25 times. First layer is filled, then compaction is done by 25 times. Second layer 25 times, third layer 25 times. Then we have to level the top surface with the trowel. Next is level the top surface. Then wet the fully compacted concrete. This wet is known as the wet of fully compacted concrete. So when compaction is done, then we have to wet the concrete with the cylinder, and by deducting the weight of the cylinder, we can get the weight of the fully compacted concrete only. So this weight is known as the weight of the fully compacted concrete. So there are two weight. First is the weight of partially compacted concrete, and second is weight of fully compacted concrete. Then the compaction factor is determined as the ratio of weight of partially compacted concrete, that is W1, to the weight of fully compacted concrete, that is W2. So the compaction factor value is given by W1 upon W2. Some books or the manuals, the compaction factor value formula is given as W1 minus W and divided by W2 minus W. That is, they minus the empty weight of the cylinder in the formula. But while performing the practical, we can directly get the net weight of the concrete by deducting the empty weight of the cylinder. So we directly use the W1 upon W2. That is W1, it is the weight of the partially compacted concrete only, and W2, it is the fully compacted weight of fully compacted concrete. So it is about the compaction factor procedure. Depending upon the compaction factor, we can identify or we can divide the workability of a concrete. So first is the degree of workability very low. The compaction factor is having the value 0.78. If W1 upon W2 is value 0.78, then degree of workability is very low, and it is also having the slump 0 to 25. The slump value we discussed earlier, so we go for the compaction factor. That is, if the slump is having 0 to 25, it is also known as a very low workability, and if compaction factor is 0.78, then the concrete is having the very low workability. Use of the concrete, very dry mixes used in the road making, road vibrated by the power operated machine. So compaction factor 0.78 is very low workable concrete, is useful for the road which are vibrated by the power vibrated machines. Second, if compaction factor is 0.85, then the degree of workability is low, and this concrete is useful for the foundation with a light reinforcement and road vibrated by the hand operated machines. So with the compaction factor 0.85, concrete is termed as the low workable concrete, and it is useful for the foundation with a light reinforcement. Next, if the compaction factor is 0.92, then it is identified as a medium workable concrete, and medium workable concrete is useful for the manually compacted flat slab and normally reinforced concrete, manually compacted and heavily reinforced section with vibrators. So it is useful for the flat slab which is manually compacted, and also for the normal reinforced concrete members or the RCC members which is hand compacted. The last is, if the compaction factor is 0.95, then the concrete is known as the high workable, and a high workable concrete is useful for the section with a congested reinforcement. So where the heavily reinforced section is to be concreted, then we require a high workable concrete. so that it will reach to the corners of the formwork. So the compaction factor is 0.95, then the concrete is high workable and it is useful for the heavily reinforced concrete. Same for the workability, the slump values are given and their respective use. So it is all about the compaction factor test, which is useful for determination of the workability of a concrete. Remember, the slump cone is also useful, but when the concrete is very harsh, then slump cone that is very dry with lower water cement ratio, then the slump cone test will not give the results, required results for the workability. So for this type of the concrete that is having the low workability, low water cement ratio or the low workability, we can perform the compaction factor test to determine the workability of a concrete. So it is all about the methods useful for the determination of workability of a concrete. Okay, thank you very much.